one more party, one more special occasion. Do it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, holidays and weekends. We can have one more party. There's more hell we should be raising. One more party now, one more party tonight.
Hi everyone, and welcome to part 5 of our old barn. It's coming along really nicely. We've got all this, the top of our boxcar in, which at the moment looks very, very odd because it's just occupying a space at the top of the painting and it's not really connected to the walls or anything. It looks, it's kind of knocked all the painting out, but it's looking good. And can I tell you that today, just before I came on to do this video actually, someone posted me, private messaged me, their version of the old barn as far as they'd got with it. And I can tell you, it is absolutely gorgeous. It's really lovely. And I know this person will know who she is, and I hope she's very, very proud of herself. It's coming along nicely. So let's not lose that now. Let's keep going with it. So let's get cracking. So I've got my frog tape out, and what I'm going to do is mask off this front part of the barn, this very rusty looking front part. It's got some features in it. I think it's been, as Mr. Handyman says, I think it's been a hay loft, and this possibly has been something to winch the hay bales up. I don't know, I'm guessing really. But overall it's very rusty looking, corrugated metal, I think. So I'm going to mask it off. With frog tape. I'm using frog tape because it's for sensitive, we've had this before, it's for sensitive,
delicate surfaces.
Thank you, delicate surfaces.
Not your delicate areas or your sensitive areas.
Sorry, I'm not doing this deliberately, it just happens. Just trying to see where the line is.
So at the top of the thing, delicate surfaces, low tack.
Low tack. It's difficult seeing where that line is. It obviously comes from the apex of the roof, so. Well, does it? It comes from just inside the apex of the roof actually, because that's hanging over it. So that's that. Make sure you press it down firmly because you don't want any creep with your paint going underneath the masking tape. This must have a post on the corner, I think, that I've marked in, transferred from our image. So with deference to that, I'll go there. And then the bottom. The bottom is going to be covered a little bit with grass, so don't unduly worry about that. But I'm pretty sure I'm about right there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is something really exciting. Well, it's exciting to me, but then again I have a sheltered life. Do you like all my new plastic? It's fantastic, plastic fantastic. Everything's in there, everything's organised. I haven't got a clue where anything is because I just literally placed it in, but I'll get the hang of it. Now then, what we're doing now is using a palette knife. I really looked at this long and hard, and I tried tried to think of the best way to get this texture and this unevenness of this rust. And the best way that I can think of is with a palette knife. Now, you'll never get the same, if you're trying to get exactly the same pattern with a palette knife twice over or 3 times over, it's not going to happen. So you just have to sort of go for it and hope that it's going to be what you want. So we're going to paint this void that we have, first of all, with a sort of burnt burnt umber, raw sienna type colour, the kind of colour that we're looking for. Because the thing about palette knives, I mean, this was me just trying my colours out before, but the thing about palette knives is they skip across the canvas and they don't give you 100% coverage. I mean, they will if you keep going over and over, but that's not what we want. So I'm just going to mix up a sort of middling colour of burnt umber and raw sienna, not being too precious about mixing them on the palette. I'd quite like a sort of more marbly look, like this that we're achieving now. It's the same colours as we're going to be putting on with a palette knife, but you do need a background or you'll be there for weeks trying to get coverage with a palette knife. You don't have to be too precious about it. We want it not precious, really. I'm hoping that the people who've said they're having a problem hearing me are hearing me slightly better today. One, I'm trying to enunciate really well, but when I'm concentrating, it's so difficult. And the other thing is that we have bought a new microphone and a new lead. And so we have those in place now, and I'm hoping that it will help the sound value for you and you can actually understand what I'm saying. I'm unhappy that you don't know what brushes I'm saying that I'm using, because they're a critical part of it. So I'm just going to dry this quickly. So there we are. Leave your masking tape on. It's even more critical for the palette knife because you have slightly less control with it. So that's fine. That's a nice background. So I'm nearly used all my burnt umber, which is one of the critical colours that we need. Just pop a bit more of that out. There's not very much of that creamy Titan buff in here, not very much at all really. It's much more a sort of orangey colour, which I'm actually going to make that raw sienna slightly more orange, just to make it stand out a little bit. So I'm just going to mix the tiniest dot of this cadmium yellow through it, just to give us a brighter colour. That's a little bit of a brighter orange. I think that'll do me fine. So we'll just put out a bit of that, spread it out, and then just pick up a curl on the back of your palette knife like that, and then down we go. And that looks lovely. It's really textured. And another little bit. Let's pick up just a bit more of this. That's a really nice texture on there. Hope you can see that. It's worth all the fuss. If you consider this fuss, I consider it quite fun, really. So you see, it needs to be straight up and down because that's obviously where the doors go. So I think that's probably enough. Let's put a tiny bit of that down this side because there is a little bit of it down there. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. I mean, it's palette knife work is quick and it's exciting, and that's lovely. I think it's given us some lovely texture, really akin to what we're looking for, I think. So on top of that, now we need to put some of these black lines in. Not many. You don't want them all in. It'll start. You can't see them all, so it would be wrong to put them all in. And we also need to give an indication of this, the top of the hayloft bit here, this window here. The rest of it, I'm not really going to bother with. They're not important to my picture. You can put them in if you want to, but they're not important to me. So I'm just going to dry that. Just looking at it, I think it needs slightly more light in it. So I'm going to put a little bit more, mix up a little bit more orangey colour. Maybe just a brighter bit. It's quite orangey, that section in the door. So I think that might be a better colour for us. Let's pick up a little bead and come down. It's kind of in this section, I think, is our very orangey bit. So I'm still picking up curls from the original paint that I spread out. Spread that out again. Pick up a curl. There we are. Okay, so I'll dry that now. I'm quite happy with that now. Okay, so that's dry. And the temptation really is to take your masking tape off. I know it is. I'm dying to do it myself. But we'll just put our black lines and window hayloft thing in place. I'll just get some Saran.
Straight the right door.
I know, it's quite well. I knew I'd be turning around for this, so I really needed it there. It's quite impressive, isn't it? Right, so pop that over there, and it says just the door that we're going for. Pencil. So this is the door of the hayloft thing, whatever it is. This is the space. This is a window. It's got a sort of long lintel thing. I'll put a black line in there just to give the impression that there might be a door. But people can make their own minds up as to whether there is or there isn't. Okay. I can just about see that. But enough to paint it, which is all that matters. Right, so let's get some black out. Put in the parts that are black. The sort of return on the door itself is actually quite a browny sort of colour, so I'll put that in with brown. I just need a smallish brush and some water in that black so I can pick it up. I hope we'll feel like we're progressing once we get this done. Getting actually some bit of the barn itself, which is what the painting's called, you know, coloured in, if you like.
You can have a barn raising party.
I think a barn falling down party is probably nearer the mark for this one. It doesn't look like it's going to be standing for much longer, really. One more winter and it'll be gone, I reckon. So there's a black mark here, which is the top of the door. I'll just put some brown in for the, I'm just going to take some of this burnt umber, a little bit of the titanium buff, mix a light brown colour that's going to stand against the palette knife work that we did. Oh, I'm going to have to take this off. Well, I'll put that in later because it goes in actually over the roof, so I can't really do that until I've done the roof. So I'll just put some lines down here and there, not everywhere. So you really want to, make sure that you get your brush to a good point. And hold your ruler and paint up against it. Pull it off and wipe it before you put it back down. Otherwise you will be transferring paint. See, we don't need them everywhere. We really don't. One down there would be quite nice though. Catch that. And that window and down to the floor. One quite close to that again, I think. We don't want them regular. Make sure that they aren't regular because that's just, it would look awful. Don't forget to keep wiping your ruler off, or the next time you put it down it's going to be all black. For those of you that did the Tuscan house with me, this is kind of like the way we did the door on the Tuscan house. Similar sort of idea. Okay, I think that's enough. What do you think? Think that's enough? Yeah.
Well, I'm asking, take reveal, will tell all.
I know. The adult voice of reason thinks that's enough. So I'm done with that, aren't I? Take the masking tape off yet?
I believe so.
Let's have a look then at the big reveal. Ooh, look at that. That's lovely. It's still got some red on from the transfer paper, but I'll just wait for that to dry before I rub it off. That's all I'm trying to say. Right, roof. Where did I get my picture out? Yeah, I have blown up the roof. No, I haven't blown up the barn. I've just made larger the roof area on my old barn because I was really having trouble trying to sort out the perspective on it. Because as you know, it's going away from us, so it's getting smaller. And all of these slats that are in it are of course going away smaller as well. And I was just finding it really hard. As you saw when I put that in the first time, it was completely in the wrong place. I was just finding it very difficult to get my head around this whole thing. So I have transferred the lines, and these cross ones are kind of the lines of where the rust is or isn't. I have to decide that in a moment. I just vaguely put in the top of it and a bit at the bottom. I did that before I transferred it just to see if I could get my perspective right, but I couldn't. So I've transferred all the rusty bits, what have you, and so now we're going to give it a go and see where we get to. Where's my nice little brush?
I remember when you were doing it, you told me that the lines went through the middle of the rust.
Through the middle of the rust, right? Okay. Through the middle of the rust, right? Got it.
So right to that middle.
Yeah. Okay. And where this line is must be where this sort of steely sort of colour is. I think I would have done that. That's what I would have done. So let's get some of this burnt umber into this orange colour that we had. Might need to just keep mixing till I might just need to add a little bit more yellow to that, and possibly a bit of red. I'm just going to dip my brush into this Pyrrole red, which is a very, very red colour, very bright red, and just see what that does for us. If it gives us I'm really not going to use that, that's just naughty. Use our painting knife. Mix this up. Let's get a nice rust colour going. Yeah, I think that's quite a nice colour really. Maybe a bit more brown, slightly more browny perhaps. We don't want it too dark though. I mean, I'm adding the red because I've added yellow, and as you know, yellow and red make orange. So I thought it might give us a nice rusty colour, but it's it's still resisting. So I'm adding some raw sienna and some of the cad yellow. I want to make sure I've got enough for the whole roof. I don't really want to waste any either. No, still a bit browner, I think. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure what that colour is. Black, I think. I've tipped into the black there. Well, I'll go with that for the ones that are very dark, and then I might lighten it for the rest. Actually, is a good way of addressing it, I think. So let's just get some water into there. Fair bit so we can pick it up nicely with this brush. Okay. So the lines are in the middle of the rust. Okay. And these are the lines really, because it's corrugated, they are actually lines. Is that dark enough? Possibly not. No, I don't think it is actually, but it is dark enough for the ones that are light. So before I lose that colour again, I'll do the lighter ones. So this third one in is actually it's light, so I'll do that in this. Do it in lines that run the way the roof runs. Giving the impression that it's corrugated. Parts of it need a slightly darker colour, but I can do that once I've mixed up the dark colour, and that just runs off down to the bottom. Now the next one along is a very dark one, the darkest of all in fact, and then the next one along, well, I don't know what to say about that really. It's got sort of lines across it.
Yeah, they're probably more off the printer than.
Oh really? Oh right, okay, well I'll just make lines. So you might, what I'm saying is that you might find it helpful to draw this grid out on your roof too. If you're anything like me. I mean, I thought I had a pretty good handle on perspective, but I obviously don't. So this is the same colour now right to the end. Don't forget to leave a gap because they're all separate sheets. And they're all going top to roof to bottom. Now we'll mix up a darker one. We'll come back and put a bit of detail into some of these. Oh, there's Bobby. Hopefully with this new microphone you won't pick up quite so much noise of Bobby. That's the hope. It may or may not happen in real life.
As long as we pick you up, that's the main thing.
Well, I have to try and remember, if I can, to speak clearly when I'm speaking. And it's kind of difficult because when you're really concentrating, you don't, well, I just mumble.
Well, particularly when your head's down.
Yeah.
Then obviously, you're speaking into the table.
Well, I'm speaking to my chest, actually.
Which is, quite a good baffle, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Thanks for that. Right, okay, so. Getting very small and very pale by the time we get to here, to be honest. But they are there, so we'll just make a mark for them. Okay, so yeah, okay, I can see that we're coming along, trotting on. Let's add a bit more of this dark to this. To be quite a bit darker, I want to be noticeably darker. Don't want to run into that black again. I think that's probably, although I thought it was dark enough before, when I put it on, it wasn't anything like dark enough. Let's give that a try. That looks like a good colour to me. With our little brush, Put some water in there. Make it quite inky consistency so you can pick it up with your little brush. Get a good point on it. Right, so there is a little bit that comes, yeah, I think that colour's adequate, to be honest. And these are kind of much more noticeable, much more sort of liney. They're closer to us so we can see the lines in them, which you can't as it moves away from you, of course. This one is quite a dark one, so I'm just going to add the tiniest bit of black to that. Just darken it down. Give us a bit of variation across our roof. Yeah, that's darkened it down a little bit. All these lines aren't the same length or size, so vary them as you go. And seem to get to the widest apart at the bottom, which makes sense because that's the bit closest to us. Okay, so which other bits need darkening? It's just as we go along, let's just see. This one here at the bottom it's a bit darker. That's about it, I think. Apart from that, they're all, like this one here on this side of it seems to be darker for whatever reason. But I like the idea of that because it mixes it up. It doesn't look quite so contrived. And these really have got quite dark. I'm just going to come back over some of these and darken them in again, because they are dark. Some of them almost run into each other. I mean, like I said last time, I think, I'm guessing they're like this because the slat runs under them, and it's where the slat is that the moisture's been held there and the metal then has rusted, is my best guess at what's going on here. Now that one's light, so I'm going to leave that. I mean, it really is light. It's got one line in there, give it that. This one is the darkest of all. So we'll just go back over that, reinstate our brown, make it very, very, very brown. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I think we now have to address the this metal colour. It's grey. I'm quite sure it's a grey. It may be reflecting some of the sky in that it looks a bit blue. So I'm going to mix up a grey with a slight bluish tint to it and add that where it's needed, but certainly down the side of most of the corrugated sheets you can see a bit of that. So I just got the rubber in my hand. I'm just going to move the transfer colour because I want to see what the barn door looks like, the front of the barn looks like. Oh, it looks lovely. I'm really pleased with that. You can't actually see it that well on camera, so I shall bring it to you. it's really textured. It's really lovely. And when you do it, you'll see what I mean. It looks nice. So I have mixed up a light colour between actually all the mixes that we've got and some titanium buff. And this is the colour that it's come out as. It's kind of mucky looking colour, which is good. That's what I want. It really was a mixture of all of, not the yellow, but everything else that was on the palette. And because some of these on the roof, in between them, it's actually quite dark. It's darker than the colour we have there now. So I could have put a wash on, but I don't want to knock the colour out of what we've got already. So I'll just paint the bit that's in between, just to give it a bit of what it needs. Really, this is what it needs. So there's that one. There's the one next to it. That goes right up to there as well, actually. As does this. When we come to put this sort of steely, whatever it is, corrugated iron, isn't it, iron? When we come to put the iron colour in, it may go over some of this, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It's an old wrecked barn, you know what I mean? I think that's making a huge difference to the roof. I think it's bringing it together.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
You see it on camera, yeah.
Oh, good. So I wish I could tell you more closely what this colour is that I'm using. But just play around yourself. But it does include titanium buff, and it does include burnt umber and raw sienna, and it's just kind of mixed, and it's given me this colour, which I think is very appropriate for I'm just going to put the odd little line in here. This one's quite a light one, so it doesn't need much, but I do need to bring the roof together, and this one's got quite a lot of this colour in. It's a dark one. How's it looking, Miss Strach?
It's looking very nice. That's just knocking the sort of,
yeah, knocking it
the
back.
really white colour that we started off with.
Yeah, it's too
the light colour should have been not white.
Yeah, titanium buff it was, but it's too light, isn't it? It's a good colour to start with, good base colour.
Yep. Well, you can see where you're putting your lines, and you start off with a light background. So
this has got some, but not much. And there's not much distinction between this and the light colour that we drew the rust on with, so it maybe doesn't need too much of this on it. Just a bit to bring it together. Yeah, I'm quite happy with this. I think it's making it look cohesive. Let's put this on one side of that, because I don't think it really needs it all over it, the lighter ones. I'll have a look at it when I've finished and see on screen and see if I think it does need some more on or not. Now this is actually quite bright. It's almost stupidly bright. I think it's benefiting too from this. So does that need any more is the question. I really don't think it does. I really quite like that, and I'm going to put the metal in now, and then we'll get more of an idea of what else we need to do with that roof, if anything. What do you think, Mr. H? Or are you zooming in? I wondered what you... Oh, you're zooming out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just take some phthalo blue, the merest mere. that much was still too much. And I'm also going to take some neutral grey, if I can find it.
Sometimes by zooming in too close, you get a false idea of what it looks like.
Well, that's the problem. That's what I'm doing.
Because nobody's going to view it.
But I am zoomed in because I'm right over it. And of course, you're not painting things for people to be 4 inches away.
No, that's why they always recommend you should step away.
Step back, have a look at it. And indeed, actually, when we finished painting, when we finished doing one of these videos or any of the videos we do, where we sit in the evening, the fire, therefore the mantelpiece, is directly opposite where we sit. And so I always put whatever I've been doing that day on the mantelpiece. So as all night, you know, periodically I can look at it and think, that bit there just doesn't sit well with me. Or, you know, I like that bit, whatever. So this is neutral grey, which you can make up yourself with black and white. There's nothing fancy about neutral grey. It is just black and white. And let's mix up. Ooh, should have washed that off. So let's mix up a bit of that with a little dot of this and see what colour we get. We even have to add a little bit of white into that. That's quite a pronounced grey colour, and it's not blue enough for what I wanted. But I'm running scared of this phthalo blue because it is so pigmented. I'm going to put a bit of white in there for 2 reasons. One, I want to lighten it, but it'll also make the phthalo blue more tealy coloured, which might do us a favour. You know, once we get the barn in, we're making proper progress here. Proper progress. Then we have to start on the grass. Yikes. That's a lot of grass. Yeah, I think that's quite a nice colour. Well, the colour that we're looking for anyway, let's say. That look like the right colour?
That looks the perfect colour.
Yeah.
And once you're putting some of that on, I'll just mute you for a second while I attend to the fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just talking about the fire there reminded Mr. H that he hadn't been tending to our fire, and therefore it had gone out, so it needed a bit of resus, which is now kindly given it. So when we're finished, we can sit down in front of the fire. I know, it's May. It's ridiculous. It's May, and we still need the fire on. There are black splits up here between the sheets of corrugated iron, but they're much easier to put on after we've put the blue on. I don't know why I'm looking out the window at you. Hello. I'm giving painting lessons to everybody out there, which is nobody, I hasten to add. Oh dear, that's funny. So the third one along has got a bit of a whole section of this actually in there, and then a bit at the top as it goes up to the apex part of the roof. I don't know what you call that. Ridge, roof ridge. Sounds good to me. Roof ridge. Roof ridge. So this comes all the way down here like this. I think it's maybe a good idea to copy a large version of it out. I'm quite liking having this version to refer to. I'm not copying it slavishly, I can tell you. There's no real benefit to it. You know, as long as you get. Yeah, I think that looks. Is that the right colour? Are you happy with that colour?
Yes.
Yeah.
You up with that colour?
Yeah, I think it looks good. I like it. So I'm hoping that the new microphone and very expensive lead is working, and that you're hearing me more clearly, which was the object of the exercise, and that you're not hearing too much from Bobby or the cat.
Or the fire roaring in the background.
Yeah, well,
Let's pick that up now.
Yeah, the fire is roaring in the background. The thing is that we try and have the fire kind of just on, because if you have it roaring like this, it just dries the paints out so quickly. But, you know, I've got to tend to it. So along here there's sort of less, you can see less of this, obviously because it's going backwards, out of our view. And the ends of this look quite sort of split ends. It's got lots of problems, this barn, and now it's got blooming split ends as well. So that goes up there. There's bits that come down quite thickly from the top of the roof. Okay, I think we're...
I think you could also use that colour for the slats in the broken roof, maybe?
Yeah, that's probably a good...
Sort of that
yeah,
colourish, I think.
probably a good colour for that. I'm trying to leave the bottom part in the colour that we had, so it looks like we've got a bit of a shadow thing going on. I'm just painting on top of those. Yeah, I mean, you can still see, well, you probably can't from there, but there's still a little bit of that first colour that I put in. I think that looks a bit more convincing. This is quite bright here, this section. There's not much paint on it, or rust or anything really. Okay, so now what do I really need? A bit there, possibly. As well, I've got this colour made, which is a good colour. Just want to make sure that I've touched everywhere that needs it. So there's a bit there that goes along here. This is quite a large section here. And at the bottom, apart from that, I don't think we're far off really. They're not straight, these lines. Try not to paint them straight. It's so easy to paint them straight, but you know they're not. Yeah.
Just putting an highlight on that vent so that when you've got that colour in your hand. Just a suggestion.
Oh, so just away.
See if that's a good colour, maybe if it's just a bit of highlight on that.
Lovely. Okay, two birds with one stone. Right, so now I'm going to move into the black. Not in my bank. That seldom happens. I'm just going to stop momentarily and have a drink of coffee, otherwise it's going to go cold. Too late. Even so, it's very nice. So my black's still viable here. Let's move it into a clean bit of palette. Get it quite inky. While I've got the white out, actually, I'm just going to paint these. I've obviously caught them at some stage with my hand, and I don't want them to come back and bite us when we're doing the grass. So down here there's a section that's blown up off there. There's another little section there quite similar to it. Just a bit that's torn off. There's quite a big black section there. Okie dokie. Really, when you do this, I mean, it's a joy to do. Painting is always a joy, but you really have to kind of concentrate quite hard on where you are and what exactly is going on. So forgive me if I do mutter sometimes. I know I do. I'm really sorry about it. But concentrating, making sure that, you know, not in your way, my head isn't over the thing, the light's right, and that Mr. Handyman's happy with his production business over there, then, you know, sometimes it's just hard to even remember to speak, I'm afraid, sometimes. So I'm really sorry about that. So these black lines make a heck of a difference, don't they? They really do. But they're not all the same length, they're not all the same width. So, you know, beware of that. This has got a corner missing here. And then it comes up like that. So I'm doing this in black because it is very dark. The shadow underneath the roof, however, may not be as dark as this. It may just, I may put a bit of raw umber through it, so it's really, really dark, but not black, as black has a very deadening effect. Here's another one that's torn. For things like this, it's worth taking your time, I think, because they're very impactful, these lines. When we come to do the shadow underneath, we need to really take a look at the shape of these, because we've got them all one length, which of course they aren't. So there we are, that's those in. The only other thing I really want, well, I can't really because that's still wet. I would just like to get that, yeah, this bit here that's overhanging, I'd like to get that in. It's very dark, but it's not black. So I'm just going to take, no, not with your little brush, don't do it. I've lost my, oh, here it is. I'm just going to take a bit of that, still actually alive, believe it or not, and mix it in through that little bit of black that we had there, which gives us a nice dark colour, but it's got a bit of life to it. Like I say, black on its own is really, really deadening. And we've also got the door to put in, but I need to put this edge, whatever it's called. Right, so this comes down like that, and it sort of sticks out a little bit, then it comes down a little bit more, and then it goes very raggedy. I think that's it really to reach the bottom. Just take your time, and if you want to get your ruler out or masking tape or whatever to make it perfectly straight, do so. It's always worth doing that. And this finishes just where the trees start, which is strange. This bit does come out at the top. I want it to come out. There we are. That's fine. And I'm just going to colour in the paint in this side down here with this very dark colour. Very pleased with how the doors came out. The door. I keep thinking in my head that it's like bifold doors, even although I know it isn't. This isn't as thick as the one on the other side, by the way that we're looking at it. Okay, so what else do I need to do to make that happy? It's got a very dark line down here, which as soon as I've got this out and on my brush, I'm going to add to it, and that I think will sort of finish the door and pretty much the roof, I think. I mean, I might look at it tonight and think, that would benefit from this, that and the other. There's quite a lot of grey in there now, and I'm not in love with it, I have to tell you. What do you think, Mr. H?
What are you not happy with?
Too much grey.
On the roof?
It is there on the picture, but...
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it dries.
Yeah, see how it dries.
I mean, now we've got all the colours in, maybe a wash is the way forward now. We've actually established everything. Or maybe not. Time will tell.
Right.
Maybe I would say maybe because you've got those colours available to you, you might want to put in the bit where you might itch your horse.
Oh, the post here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to put that door return in. The colours are drying up.
You don't have to put that in, Nichols, and just maybe if you've got the colours.
And a little bit of white.
All these things are much more difficult than I ever realised.
Yeah, if you'd only done this and you'd only done that. Don't shout at me, I do my best. And I'm determined to wreck it. What's I doing? The door, the little return thing on the... So it just kind of comes back up here, down here, and across. I'm going to need a slightly darker version of that colour because it's not showing up at all. Blimey. Okay, let's add a little bit of that to it. See how dark it wants to go. It's daring me. Okay, that is visible now. And it's got a little sort of strengthening bit across there. I'm just going to paint in and down there, which just makes it look kind of more alive. A couple of lines down it. That always helps. Yeah, that's good. I'm happy with that. It's fine. So yeah, the this post here. I might leave that actually, so I've got some green. I think it's got some green on it, so I might just leave that till we're in that department. I'm just going to paint this out white, but you don't need to hang around if you don't want to. That's literally all I'm going to do. And I'm going to spend the evening looking at this and seeing what I think of it. Actually, when I look at it now, when I look at it on the monitor, it looks alright. I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to dab this out. I just fear that when we come to do the grass, it might just be one of those things that you just never can ever get rid of. Oh, blimey, I'm adding to it. That's going to need another coat just to block it out. But yeah, okay. How are we doing? Got the doors on, got the roof on. Perfect. Just the side to go, really. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with this. Okay, so I'll see you very soon, a couple of days or so, with the next part 6, I think it'll be then. And we'll see how we're going then. So thanks for joining me. Don't forget, I do have a donate button on the YouTube channel. It's up at the top by where my name is. And I'm so very grateful to those of you that feel you can donate, because it keeps it free for everyone. Thanks very much. See you soon. Bye.
Me and the boys was sitting around drinking, we was talking about things that we was thinking, when all of a sudden what comes out of Bill's mouth? Said I'm getting old and fat and slow, and I don't recover like I did before from nights of rabble, rousing and too much fun. Well, I looked around and we all agreed, and I